Hello and welcome to Mickeyology, where we take Disney a little too seriously. I'm Austin Rathall, and today we're exploring the tale as old as time, Beauty and the Beast. Disney wanted to adapt this story since the 1940s, but although various writers struggled to bring the story to film, Disney's movie wouldn't arrive in theaters until 1991. Why did it take so long to adapt, and how similar is the Disney version to the original? Let's find out by comparing the award-winning movies with the story that inspired them. There are many versions of Beauty and the Beast. Disney adapted it into both animated and live-action films, not to mention the Broadway musical, spin-off films, and TV projects. Even before Disney began adapting it, though, there were multiple versions of the story in print. Two of the most famous come from 18th century France. One is a 1740 novella by Gabrielle Suzanne Barbeau de Villeneuve. The other is a 1756 short story by Jean-Marie Le Prince de Beaumont. Both tell the same basic story, which goes like this. A rich merchant with many children falls on hard times when his home burns down and his ships are lost at sea. He's forced to move his family to a lonely country house. While his elder daughters are bitter about their situation, his youngest daughter, Beauty, or in French, La Belle, remains kind and optimistic. The merchant gets word that one of his ships has been recovered, and he goes to the city to claim it. Unlike his selfish daughters, who demand that he bring them many extravagant gifts, Belle asks only that he bring a single rose. The merchant fails to reclaim his fortune and tries to return home only to be caught in a blizzard. Luckily, he stumbles upon a castle, untouched by the snow. Inside, he finds food and a fire to revive him. When he tries to pick a rose from the castle's garden for Belle, an angry beast appears. The beast demands that the merchant pay for his crime with his life, or else bring one of his daughters to be the beast's prisoner. When the merchant returns home to say goodbye to his family, Belle says that she'll go to the castle to save her father. She goes to the castle and is surprised to find that the beast doesn't want to eat her. Instead, he's rather kind, although he's very ugly and not much for conversation. When the beast joins Beauty for dinner, he abruptly asks her to marry him. She refuses. However, she does become fond of him as she spends months at the castle. She spends her days amusing herself with music and with books. The castle has a fine library. And each night the beast proposes to her over dinner, and each night she refuses. Eventually, Belle asks the beast if she may return home to visit her family one last time. The beast reluctantly agrees, asking her to return at a certain time, and gives her a magic ring that will transport her back to the castle. Belle visits her family and stays past the agreed-upon time. She realizes her mistake and uses the ring to return to the castle, where she finds the beast lying on the palace grounds near death. She revives him and, realizing that she loves him, finally agrees to marry him. The beast suddenly transforms into a handsome prince and reveals that a long time ago a wicked fairy transformed him and cursed him to remain a beast until a virtuous young woman would agree to marry him. Belle and the beast are married, and they live happily ever after. You can see many similarities between this story and the Disney films. For one thing, the films and the books all feature the same central characters: Belle, the Beast, and Belle's father. Some characters from the book don't appear in the Disney films, but they seem to have inspired a few characters that do appear. For example, Disney's Enchantress is an amalgamation of the wicked fairy who curses the beast, as well as a good fairy who appears in Belle's dreams and blesses the couple's marriage at the very end. While Villeneuve doesn't feature talking clocks or teapots in her tale, she does have a good fairy turn the members of the prince's court into statues, and these statues remain frozen until the curse is broken. She also gives Belle various animals who entertain her and keep her company at the castle. These characters may have inspired the servants-turned-objects of the Disney films. Disney's Gaston may be an amalgam of the various suitors who pursue Belle and her sisters in the books, and Gaston may also have been somewhat inspired by Belle's brothers, who propose killing the beast rather than allowing him to imprison their sister. Some of the film's key props come from the story as well. Disney's Enchanted Rose was probably inspired by the rose Belle asks her father to pick for her in the story, although Disney's live-action film features both roses. The Villeneuve and Beaumont stories also feature magic looking glasses that allow Belle to see people who are far away, just like the magic mirror in the films. Disney also took major plot points from the books. In the movies, Belle's father gets lost in the woods, he stumbles upon the castle, he angers the Beast, who then allows Belle to take her father's place as his prisoner. Belle spends many days at the castle, enjoys the castle's library, and becomes closer to the Beast. Just as Belle's growing to love the Beast, though, she asks to return to see her father, which breaks the Beast's heart. She returns to the castle to find the Beast on the brink of death, but her love revives him and transforms him back into a handsome prince. However, there are major differences between the books and the movies too. The biggest difference between Disney's version and the original is the reason for the Beast's curse. In the movies, an enchantress transforms a prince into a beast because he's selfish, but in the story, the Beast doesn't really deserve his curse. In fact, in the Villeneuve version, the wicked fairy was the Beast's elderly nanny, and when he grows up, she tells him to marry her. When she finds out he's not into that idea, she curses him. Villeneuve also reveals that Belle isn't really the merchant's daughter. She's actually the daughter of a king and a fairy, a natural-born princess, and the Beast's biological cousin. So that's nice. If you're considering reading Beauty and the Beast yourself, I highly recommend the Beaumont version. It's a short, simple fairy tale in the style of Perrault or the Brothers Grimm. I don't recommend the Villeneuve version. It's not terribly long. The version I read was just over 100 pages, but it is wordy, and it's also overstuffed with subplots upon subplots. It's not so much the subplots themselves that are bad, but rather the way in which Villeneuve tells them. About 75% of Villeneuve's novel tells the slow and simple story of how Belle learns to love the Beast. Then, just as the curse is broken and you think that the wedding bells are about to chime and everything's going to come to a close, Villeneuve brings everything to a screeching halt and goes back to explain everything that led to Belle's encounter with the Beast. And it's an epic fantasy saga packed with complex fairy lore, and it shows that while Belle and the Beast's meeting seemed like chance, it was really the result of warring kingdoms, rival fairies, and enough love triangles, deaths, and betrayals to fill a soap opera. Why Villeneuve would choose to veer from fable to high fantasy is beyond me, especially considering how late in the book she does so. While I didn't enjoy the book itself, I did, however, get some fascinating insights into Disney's Beauty and the Beast by reading it. It showed me just how different the movie could have turned out and how far Disney strayed from the source material to make it work. It's easy to see why both versions of the story were so tough to translate to film. As producer Don Hahn said, the original story is essentially about two people having dinner together every night, with the Beast repeatedly asking her to marry him. Disney's writers clearly stripped the story down to its most basic elements and then built from that a new story that most people, ironically, now probably think of as the classic version. Reading the novella also made me realize that there's a lot of untapped potential still left for Disney or someone else to mine from the novella. Someone could take the tangled plots of Villeneuve's novella and turn them into a pretty compelling fantasy film or TV series. I don't know that we need yet another retelling of Beauty and the Beast, but it is possible that someday we'll get a more book-accurate version of the story that looks a lot less like the Disney film than something like Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, or The Chronicles of Narnia, or ABC's Once Upon a Time. Until then, however, I would stick with the Beaumont fairy tale and, of course, the wonderful Disney films that it inspired. So there you have it. That is how Disney's Beauty and the Beast films compare to the original versions of the story. Please let me know if you have read either the Beaumont or the Villeneuve version and which one you like best. Also, let me know which Disney movie you would like me to compare with its source material next. As always, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.